All right, and welcome to our first read aloud with me, Mr. Duclos. Today, we are going to read a classic, The Ugly Duckling. The Ugly Duckling was written by Hans Christian Andersen. That's the author, the person who wrote the book. The pictures were done by Michael Hampshire. That's the illustrator. Let's begin. It was summertime in the country. At the edge of the pond, a mother duck was waiting for her eggs to hatch. After a long time, they finally began to crack. "Peep, peep," the duckling said. "Quack, quack," replied the mother. "Look at the big world around you." The mother duck was delighted with her ducklings. But then she looked around. "Oh dear," she cried. "The biggest egg is still under the nest. And this egg is much bigger and darker than all the others." "I'm sure it's a turkey egg," said another duck. At last, the large egg cracked. "He doesn't look like the others," the mother said. "I wonder if he could be a turkey." Do you think he's a turkey? Let's find out. The next day, the mother duck took her ducklings for their first swim. "Quack, quack," she said. "Follow me. I'll take you to the hen yard and introduce you to the other ducks. Stay close now and look out for the cat." The other ducks in the hen yard did not like the big gray duckling. They chased and bit and pushed him all day long. Is that a nice thing to do? I don't think so. "You are so ugly. We wish the cat would get you," they laughed. Even his mother finally said, "You really are an ugly duckling." The duckling was so unhappy that he ran away to a swamp where many wild geese lived. "You are ugly, but you seem fine," the geese said. "We are going to go fly south for the winter. Do you want to come with us?" Bang, bang! Before the duckling could answer the geese, the swamp was filled with hunters. Their dogs splashed around looking for ducks. The geese flew away, and the ugly duckling was so frightened he hid in the grass for a long time. Finally, the hunters left, and the duckling ran away as fast as he could. Soon, the duckling found a quiet lake with other ducks. But once again, they ignored him because he was so ugly. One evening, as the sun was setting, a flock of swans flew above the lake. Their feathers were snowy white, and they had long, slender necks. The ugly duckling thought that the swans were beautiful. He stretched his neck to the sky to get a better look at them. As he gazed up at the swans, the ducklings knew he would never forget the graceful way that they traveled through the sky. The weather grew colder, and the lake turned to ice. The poor duckling was so cold and hungry. One morning, a farmer found him and took him home. Inside the cozy house, the farmer's wife fed the duckling and nursed him back to health. When the farmer's children saw the duckling was feeling better, they wanted to play with him. The youngsters pretended they were ducks too and ran toward him, flapping their arms. The duckling did not know the children were playing, and so he was frightened. He tried to run away, but he fell into the milk pail and then into the barrel of flour. What a mess this was. The duckling shook himself off and ran outside to hide in the swamp. This duckling's really having a hard time of it. Let's see if he can get a happy ending. The ugly duckling spent the long winter huddled through patches of reeds. When he finally heard the larks begin to sing, he knew that spring had come. The duckling spread his wings. How strong and powerful they had become. The duckling began to run in the warm spring air. He flapped his wings, and suddenly he was flying. The duckling flew high above the swamp and the farmlands nearby. Beyond the barn was a lovely garden with a beautiful pond. Below him, he saw the swans that he had thought were so beautiful. "I want to be near them," he said to himself. "I am so ugly, they probably won't want to be friends with me. But I'd like to meet them anyway." When the duckling landed on the water, he was not brave enough to approach the lovely birds. Instead, he settled down and gazed at the graceful swans. Then he saw they were coming to meet him. The ugly duckling was sure they were going to ask him to leave their home. The poor ugly duckling bent his head shyly and waited for the swans to start squawking at him. But what was that for he saw in the water? It was his own reflection, and he was no longer an ugly duckling. He was a swan. Suddenly he understood. It did not matter that he had been born in a duck's nest, because he had come from a swan's egg. The other swans welcomed him and made him one of their family. The young swan's heart filled with joy. But as he swam off to be with his new friends, the swan made a promise to himself. "If I ever see an ugly duckling, I will be kind to him as I always hoped others would have been to me." The